CzarThwomp here, and welcome to episode 5 of Apollo Justice. Last time, Phoenix really turned Ace Attorney traditions on their head by accusing Kristoph of being the murderer. That's right, for the first time in the series, essentially, your assistant in the case, your advisor, your guide, is actually the murderer. Literally, that's like if they accused Mia of murder in the very first trial of the first game. I forgot to mention something. I was the one who put that hat on his head. Huh? You put that on the dead man's head? He wore it through our entire poker game. After calling the police, when I returned to the scene, his head was in full view, shining bright, just like in this photograph. And I picked up his hat up off the floor and put it on his head. Why'd you do such a thing like that? All I can say is, I'm sorry. But that's the only thing I touched at the crime scene. So Miss Orley didn't see it. It being the victim's, his head? I think not. She was out cold. I believe I was the only one who witnessed his head. Here we go again. Mr. Gavin? Pardon. It just seems that our client is determined to lie his way through this case. Hey! He's still our client, isn't he? No, he is a despicable human being who has tried to screw me over for the past 7 years. I believe that's enough of that. Mr. Gavin? This witness's testimony, it's more like a travesty. It's riddled with lies. I'm beginning to see how you came to lose your attorney's badge 7 years ago. Well, you certainly have a unique way of treating your clients, Kristoph. I never knew. I believe it was you who threw the first stone. Mr. Ryan, if you had to ever tell the truth about this case, it's now or never. Don't be misled. I haven't told a single lie here. Huh? When I noticed the trap, I put the car in the bottle to dispose of it. And when I put the hat on the victim's head, let's just say I had a reason for doing that as well. Reason? That reason is right here. Your cell phone? That night, recall that I spoke with defense attorney Gavin after calling the police. Just in case, I recorded our conversation. What's this? Now that we're all here, I see no reason why I shouldn't play it back to the court. Kristoph, I seem to be in a bit of trouble. What's this? Game's not going well? Something like that. That gentleman who challenged you, he turned out to be good? He turned out to be dead. Someone hit him. Hard. You mean someone cracked a flawless bone china plate? It wasn't you, was it? Though I wouldn't be surprised if it was, right? Me, please, the cops should be here any minute. I'm in your hands, should it come to that. Bone china plate? A kind of porcelain, very smooth and shiny, and not plate, but pate. I believe he was referring to a certain gentleman's balding forehead. The court appreciates the defendant's discretion in not indicating my forehead. Wait a second, something's not right about that phone call. So, after Mr. Gavin ate dinner with you, he left the Borschtful Club. Most certainly. Then how did he know? When did he see this bone china plate? Oh, that's right. Yes. That was when I began to see my good friend in a different light. And then Kristoph is like, You knew from the start, didn't you? Troubled, I returned to the crime scene, and when I spied Mr. Smith's head again, I realized exactly what was wrong. Well, Mr. Gavin, the stage has been set. Perhaps you would like to explain this to the court. Exactly how did you come by your privileged knowledge of the victim's head? He took his hat off to scratch his head, right? So, this is your reason? The reason why you put the victim's hat back on. Your point, Mr. Gavin? It's come down to this, hasn't it? Phoenix, right? Order! I want order! Mr. Payne!
Yes, Your Honor!
I believe this court has been left with no other choice. Are you prepared to hear defense attorney Gavin's testimony?
Well, as prosecutor,
Very well. We'll break for 10 minutes. After which Mr. Gavin will take the stand for a cross-examination. Are we all clear on that? Crystal clear, Your Honor. Very well. This will be the final recess for the day. Mr. Guy and Mr. Wright are both in the judge's chambers. Who would have thought today would turn out like this?
May I?
Huh? What?
Hello, sir. Please pick a card.
What's all this about? This one? Is this okay?
Excellent. I have a message for you. The last hand is about to be played. You'll need a trump card to make it.
A trump card?
The card you have chosen is magical. Use it wisely and the game is yours. Don't acquit Daddy and I will kill you, Polly. I will slit your throat in your sleep, and don't think I won't. I will find you, Polly, and I will dispose of you in the panties, Polly. You will end up in the magic panty dimension. No one will ever find you, Polly. You will die. That's all.
An ace? Where do I remember that card from?
Mr. Smith's hand had 3 aces, and Mr. Wright's 2. It is 5 aces in all. It is true. I have seen it. The 5th ace. They were cheating, I swear to you.
The missing 5th ace! Wait, this splotch of red. Is this the blood? Is this blood?
You have your trump card. Now it's up to you to cut the deck and draw the truth. My father's fate is in your hands. I know you can do it, Polly. You will do it, Polly, or I will break you.
This bloodstained card is my trump card for finding the truth? I fell deep into thought as my mind raced to understand what this all meant. That girl! I'd seen her recently, but where? Maybe in my nightmare! Yeah, it was that nightmare of that weird magician girl who made me be an assistant in her shows for no pay! That's why I made the connection! Bloody ace added to the court record. Okay, yeah, just making sure that everything's registering. Okay, good. Okay. Court will now reconvene. Defense Attorney Kristoph Gavin, will you please take the stand? Now then, if you would, Mr. Payne.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. The witness, state your name and occupation.
Is this farce necessary, Your Honor? Do you not know who I am? You know I'm a defense attorney. You know that I am Kristoph Gavin. You just said my name. Believe me, far stranger things have gone on in this courtroom. Yet all of it resulting from Wright. He is the root of all strangeness. He is the root of insanity. Fine, I'll play along. First, there's one thing we need to have very clear. How do you know about the secret beneath the victim's hat? By secret, I'm guessing he means the fact that Mr. Smith is bald. Forgive my curiosity, but what is it about this fellow's head? Your Honor seems to have an inordinate interest in it, probably because he is bald. I wouldn't call it inordinate, Mr. Gavin. Yeah, Phoenix comes back. Mr. Wright! What do you think you're doing, Wright? Wow, things sure look different from the other side. You know what I mean, Apollo? Speaking of looking from the other side, let's consider something for a second. The victim wore that hat all night, never once taking it off, except for that one time. That one time! Being the instant he was hit! Oh! When Mr. Wright returned from the reporting the crime, that hat was lying on the floor. Mr. Wright picked it up and placed it on the victim's head. In other words, if you weren't to have seen Mr. Smith's bald head, you would have had to be at the scene of the crime! At the time of the crime! In other words, you'd have to be the real killer. Is that what you're trying to say? Not bad, Apollo. Mr. Gavin, I'm afraid that I haven't been entirely honest with the courts. Well,
What?
oh, I assure you, I had the noblest of intentions. I did it all to protect my client, Mr. Wright. Yet, I'm afraid in the current situation, I see little reason to hide anything. I was a gentleman to him! A gentleman! And yet, here he is. And how does he thank me? He tries to accuse me for murder. He tries to have me thrown in a jail cell. Thank you, right? Thank you for betraying our friendship. Very well. Allow me to tell you the truth of what happened that night.
Finally, you may begin your testimony. Tell us, how were you involved in the events of that fateful night?
The rage I sensed in that man that night troubled me, so I returned to the club. I sensed that he had the anger of 1,000 jerks. I went down to the basement and peeked in through the little window to the hideout. I was minding as any good citizen would. It must have been right after the murder took place. The victim was dead, as he appeared in this photo. A bald head, an unconscious girl, and Wright, holding the bottle in his hand, waving it about, yelling about how he would destroy me. Of course, being the good, kind, and benevolent man that I am, I forgave, because he is my friend. I sensed that it was not in the best of places for me to be at the time, so I left. That's when the call came from Wright.
So, you witnessed the murder?
For better or worse, I missed the actual moment of the deed.
Mr. Gant, may I remind you that you are on Mr. Wright's defense team? Your testimony is clearly disadvantaged to your client.
Hence why I did not say it previously. What else could I say? I'm standing on the witness stand after all. I am being, for you see, unlike the defendant, I am actually an honest man who obeys his oaths. I tell the truth on the stand. What does Wright do? He lies. He lies like a cheap rug. Like the cheap rugs in his office. The $5 rugs that he stole from a dumpster because he couldn't even front the cost himself because he is that cheap. So you are Mr. Gavin. And you had to testify as you just did. You had to tell them you saw the scene of the crime through that little window.
Mr. Wright?
You had to say that. Because that was the only probable window of opportunity, right, Apollo? See, Apollo? See, Payne? This is how you make a good joke. This is a good pun. This is good wordplay. Yeah, and at this point, just Apollo and Winston, they just become nothing. It's just Phoenix versus Kristoph.
Oh! Mr. Wright, the defense should do the cross-examination, not the defendant. Mr. Justice, are you prepared?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor! I can't believe I'm going up against Mr. Gavin! This trial is getting weirder by weirder.
Oh, and let me tell you this, Justice, that for your betrayal, your pay is about to get lower and lower. I have to cross-examine everything Kristoph says because it's magical.
That man! You mean Mr. Smith?
No, I meant Wright. You do know that's the common name for him, right? I mean, his best friend calls him that. He was different from the other customers. His aura, shall we say, reeked of jerkitude. He was an evil man, a foul man that had to be purged from this world. I knew he was a serious poker player, but it was more than that.
So then you knew the true nature of your client's job?
Of course. But I also knew he wasn't engaged in gambling, which would be illegal, and I would report, because I am a good person. Would these eyes lie to you? Would I lie to you? I am beautiful, ergo I do not lie. It is a known fact that the beautiful do not lie, for their souls are as beautiful as their outward appearance. And by that regard, Wright is the most despicable liar I have ever met.
Well, it makes sense that he'd know. They were friends, after all.
Worried for my friend, I returned to the club. But apparently my so-called friend, was lying in wait to destroy my life. You see, I feared this Mr. Smith might be someone coming to settle an old score. I wouldn't be surprised. After all, Wright is known for provoking people. I had to protect Wright, for you see, he was under my wing of benevolence.
I see, what happened then?
Like I said, Kristoph gets more fun when you start to see the more malicious side of him. Just that smugness. Just Kristoph freaking that smugness.
The little window? You mean the one used to keep watch upstairs?
Yes, a relic of the ancient past. The black marketers used it, I believe. Why'd you
go through the trouble peeking through the window? Wouldn't it have been easier just to open the door and go into the room?
And come face to face with that monster? I think not. I didn't want to upset Wright, you see.
Upset Mr. Wright!
Yes, he's an animal. A violent man. Yes, what if my fears had been unfounded? I'd be walking on their match. Bad form, to say the least. Well, you see, unlike Wright, I actually have a sense of courtesy. I respect people, and I try to be polite and civil. Unlike Mr. Wright, whose philosophy is bang rock against wall, make fire.
So far, everything you're saying makes sense.
Of course it does, because I am saying it.
How do you know it was right after the murder?
Really? No need to shout, Justice. I was getting to that part in my testimony. Ah, there he is, the coolest defense in the West we know and love. Even when you're standing up there on the witness stand, some things never change. I was afraid you'd change too, Wright, but you haven't. And you and that overbearing personality of yours.
With friends like these, who needs enemies?
Oh, joke's on you, Justice, for my archenemy is my friend.
Heck, I wouldn't be surprised. Phoenix and Kristoph, they hate each other. I wouldn't be surprised if Phoenix is actually Kristoph's only real friend. That's the sad part. Knowing how Kristoph is, he doesn't really make friends, so Phoenix is pretty much all he has. When it comes to friends outside of his family. By photo, you mean the second photograph of the crime scene?
Precisely. You see, he wasn't wearing his hat then. I saw his head when he was dead. And I am a poet, yet I do not know it.
And then Mr. Wright came along and replaced his hat.
Can you describe the scene of the crime for us?
A bald head, yes.
Those were the only three things at the scene of the crime?
Yes. As far as I saw, at least.
And we're back where we started. The killer was the defendant, Phoenix Wright. Who else could it have been? But why didn't you talk to the police?
2 reasons. First, I didn't actually witness the very moment of the crime. Second, my office was asked to defend Wright. Even after seeing what I had seen, I couldn't abandon my friend, because you see, unlike Wright, I have what is known as loyalty. You see, when I'm friends with someone, I help them until the bitter end. Whereas Wright, he will abandon you and will try to get you arrested at a moment on a whim.
There must have been someone else there at the moment of the crime!
Justice, I just said I saw no one, not a soul.
But why could he ask what Mr. Wright said?
Ah yes, this mysterious 4th person, who would conveniently be the real killer, I suppose. Glad to see we agree, Mr. Gavin. Let me pose a question then. Tell me, what possible reason did the real killer have to swap the cards in the victim's hand? Perhaps you can show us a reason why such a thing would be necessary.
How can I show something I can't find myself?
Remember, Apollo, the card that was swapped out was the 5th ace.
5th ace, right. Well, Mr. Justice, the question of why the killer would swap out the card has been raised. Can you point to a reason? It's now or never! The defense would like to present evidence to the court. Evidence showing the reason why a card was swapped out. Then go ahead and point out your reason, Mr. Justice. Why did the killer take the 5th ace? My reason is, this!
Is that an ace?
Why? Why, it's got blood on it! Right next to the spade! What?
This is insane! Why wasn't I told about this? Why?
Would this be the missing 5th ace?
Inconceivable! How could you? What are you doing with that card?
Well, that's the thing! Why is Mr. Gavin so upset? It's just a fishing card, it's a fishing girl!
Oh, that card? It's mine! I picked it up at the Porsche Bowl Club that night after the murder had occurred. I gave it to my daughter. Cards are a stock and trade after all. No! Impossible! Unacceptable! The court can't accept this evidence. It's a fraud! Damn you, Wright! Oh, this is it! This is a new low for you, Wright. What are you talking about, Kristoph? Oh, you know full well what you're talking about. Yeah, basically, you will see later on as to why Kristoph would get so flared up about this.
Literally, essentially, let's just say that Kristoph gets a taste of his own medicine. Just Kristoph, he's like, oh, you ass, you've been planning this from the start. You've been planning this for 7 years, haven't you? A fraud. How can you be so sure? What? I would think the only person who could claim it was a fraud would be the one who took the real car from the crime scene, the real killer. You asshole. Allow me to elaborate. What if the trace of blood was the reason?
The reason
For the killer to take the car from the scene of the crime. Where are you going on with this? Take a look at the photo, and at the victim's head. At the moment of the crime, his hat fell to the floor, and a trickle of blood ran from his forehead down the back of his head. Couldn't a drop of that blood have fallen on one of the cards? I suppose! The killer then took the card to hide the blood. Regardless, that evidence is non-permissible! It wasn't approved by the police! It was approved by Fishy Girl in Lobby! Oh? Right. Regardless of how you wasted the last 7 years, you used to be a lawyer! You know what a serious crime it is to conceal evidence! Oh, we can discuss the finer points of our legal system later. What's important now is that I've answered your question. What are you talking about? You wanted to know why the killer would have taken a car from the crime scene. And now, I've told you. That one drop of blood would have been decisive evidence, you see. This is baseless conjecture! Baseless! Oh, I assure you, it's quite based. Oh, it's not based, it's biased! In your favor, right? Oh, yeah, try to send me down the river. Send me down the river as your scapegoat. You envied me for 7 long years. Oh, but then again, you didn't envy me. You loathed me. Yes. Oh, this just puts the final nail in the coffin. That you knew, that I knew, that you knew, that what happened with your final trial. Oh, try to screw me over. It all explains it. Just like when I tried to teach you how to drive. Meanwhile, I could just imagine, basically, Phoenix can't drive, so basically he's asking Kristoph to drive him everywhere. After all, Phoenix can't afford to go on the public bus anymore. So basically, Kristoph, in order to help out, basically tried to give Phoenix driving lessons, got Phoenix a learner's permit, and basically they get behind the wheel of the car. Okay, right, put the car into drive. And then Phoenix... Okay, Kristoph. And then Phoenix just starts speeding down the road. He starts speeding straight down the road. Right, you're moving a bit fast. Please slow down. Kristoph, I know what I'm doing. Right, you went through a red light now. Kristoph, I know what I'm doing. Right, you're exceeding 80 miles per hour. I know what I'm doing, Kristoph. Right, we're heading toward the harbor. I know what I'm doing, Kristoph. Right, we're going to go into the water. I know what I'm doing, Kristoph. And then Phoenix just opens up unbuckles his seatbelt, opens up the driver's door, and just rolls out of the car. And then the car goes right into the harbor, goes through the air slowly. Right! And then just lands in the water with Kristoph doing it, and just sings slowly. Right! It's amazing, really, how a single drop of blood on a single card can lead us to the truth. It's quite simple. Well, Apollo? Yes? Try picturing the scene of the crime. Try picturing the scene of the crime in your head. Yes, and now we get 3D crime scenes. Fancy. The murder took place in the hideout. The body of the luckless victim was found at the poker table. And before the killer swapped the card out, there was a single card with a drop of blood on it in the victim's hand. Given this, there is one problem with this scene. You know what? I'll keep the trial going. Well, what is it? Let's keep it simple, shall we? Given that there was a drop of blood on the card, whose position in this diagram doesn't fit? The victims, the killers, the witnesses, the second witnesses. Whose position doesn't fit with the bloody card? The victim, because his back would have to be to the table. Well, isn't the victim's position that's a problem? I don't follow your logic here, Mr. Justice. Well, look at the victim was struck on the head, sending him back in his chair. You'd think any blood would fall behind the body, not onto the table in front of him. Take a look at this photo again. If he had blood in this position, the blood would fall on the floor, not on the cards. Why, that's right. So, what does this mean? Incidentally, we were sitting in swivel chairs. Swivel chairs? Oh, man!
Apollo, try turning the chair around. Okay.
The chair was facing the other way! It would have to be! So, we have to assume that at the time of the murder, the victim's chair was facing away from the table. When Mr. Justice returned from informing the police, which way was the chair facing?
When I came back to the room, the body was facing as seen in this photo.
That would mean the killer turned the chair back around.
Let's take the next step. Look at the diagram once more. We know that the victim was facing away from the table at the scene of the murder. But this creates another significant contradiction.
Again?
Let's test your reasoning skills again, shall we? Apollo, whose location on this diagram contradicts our new understanding of this crime? The victims, the killers, the witnesses, the second witnesses? Yes.
What doesn't make sense is the second witness!
You mean to say I don't make sense? That's hurtful, Mr. Justice. I make more sense than that crackpot bluffing ex-attorney that you are currently defending.
Oh, no, of course you do, sir!
As I thought. Good man, sir.
Help! Mr. Justice, I'm a little hard of hearing. Did you just say something? Would you be kind enough to show the court one more time what you mean? I wanted to just do that for the time. Apollo, whose location doesn't make sense. Yes, I know it's the victim. Well, the contradicting position here is the victim. Again, how many contradictions can one man have? Yeah, I just wanted to do that, Kristoph, for the fun of it. Sorry, I skipped that. Oh, I missed again. Ah, the vengeful. God. Oh, give him another chance, Your Honor. As you can see, he's quite clearly regrets his mistakes. Yeah, we're already early. Oh, this doesn't happen until the second or third case. Oh, yes! Sorry, I was thinking 5 steps ahead, because Zach's position would be strange because you wouldn't know really why he's facing that other direction. The victim was struck from the front, correct? Indeed. Well, it wouldn't have been hard for the killer to hit him from the front? Sitting where his indicator currently is? I would think it'd be quite hard, yes.
Yes, but what you're saying makes no sense! Why would the victim suddenly turn to face the wall? In the middle of a game!
I believe a sufficient reason will soon come to light.
What?
There's something in this diagram that makes far less sense, actually. Look again at the diagram. Apollo, if the victim was struck, where was he? While he was sitting, as shown here, where would his assailant be standing? Try marking it on the diagram.
What? But there's no room to put a mark, but where the killer should be?
Don't worry, let's think it through and see what we do. We know the victim was facing towards the wall at the time of the crime. That's the only thing we know for sure. Try to forget about everything else.
Where would the killer have to be standing to strike the victim from the front? The killer had to be standing, well, here.
You get points for flair, but that's about all you get.
Ah, I thought I was onto something there, too.
I really need to point out that thing that would be impossible. The victim is facing a solid cupboard. Or are you claiming the killer climbed up the cupboard and hit from above, like Spider-Man?
It's simple logic, really. If this was the only place the killer could have been standing, then that means that, at the very moment of the crime...
Wait, I know! At the moment of the crime, the cupboard wasn't there. What's that now?
I mean, that's the only explanation, right, Mr. Galvin? I hate you, right? I loathe you! This is the look of pure hate. Your Honor, Your Honor, I have a suggestion for the defense. We should arrange to examine the cupboard in the hideout immediately.
Bailiff, send a team to the crime scene immediately. Have them try and move the cupboard.
Ah, Your Honor.
What?
There's one more thing your men should look for. Please give them this. Please give this to the bailiff.
Yes, I see. You do belong in the courtroom after all, Mr. Wright.
I do my best. Well, let's forge ahead here while we wait. Look at the diagram once again. It's been changed. If the killer was standing here at the time of the crime, then this cupboard wasn't here, which means, Apollo, try moving the cupboard. Thank you. As you can see, the cupboard was the problem. At the time of the murder, it has to have been as shown here. Now everything is in place to reconstruct the moment of the crime. Oh my! What's this?
What does it know?
Look at the diagram of the crime scene once more. It appears we found yet another contradiction. What I believe to be the final contradiction, in fact.
Huh? Oh, dang!
Notice something, Apollo? Our line of deduction is rapidly approaching its logical conclusion.
Now then, Mr. Justice, please point to the new contradicting indicator. Is it the victim, the killer, the witness, the second witness? Which indicator in this diagram contradicts what we know about the crime?
This time it's Kristoph. Kristoph doesn't make sense.
About this cupboard. Are we all okay assuming it was moved?
Sure, why not?
Well, if it was, something really doesn't fit. The cupboard would have completely covered the window to the stairs! Oh! That's right! Someone standing outside wouldn't have been able to see in! Someone like Mr. Gavin!
What? What did you say? Oh, is the coolest defense in the West losing his cool? Don't expect me to play along with your little charade, right? It's only a game until someone gets killed, Mr. Gavin. And someone was, while the window to that room was blocked by a cupboard. So, Mr. Gavin, perhaps you'd like to explain to the court exactly where did you witness the crime scene from?
Excuse me, Your Honor! Order! This is a court of law and I will have order. We just now received word from our investigative team at the Morshpool Club. They've examined the cupboard in the hideout, Your Honor. Oh? And what did they find? Well, Your Honor, turns out there was a secret passage behind it. What?
Ah yes, I believe I mentioned something of the sort before. This is one of the tricks to the room many of our regulars know about.
I do remember him saying something about that now that he mentions it.
A secret passage is a handy thing to have when you're engaged in illegal goings-on. You never know when you might need to duck away from the eyes of the law.
So the room has a secret passage. Where's it go?
The other side connects to the restaurant above. The only way the bosses could get away from the cops. Enjoy a cold bowl of borscht, no doubt. Just like our killer. You see where our line of simple deductive reasoning has led us, Apollo?
I see it, but I don't believe it! That girl wasn't kidding when she said I needed this trump card for the last hand! At the time of the murder, the window was blocked and the victim's head was only off his head for a few minutes between Mr. Smith's murder. And Mr. Wright's return from calling the cops. In other words, the only place anyone could have seen the victim's bald head was from inside the hideout. Well, Mr. Gavin? Come on, say something! Dare I ask what really happened that night? Actually, I think we can probably figure it out ourselves at this point.
Sorry.
That night, for whatever reason, our killer had a date with Mr. Smith. A date with destiny. There he crouched, hidden in the secret passageway behind the cupboard, holding his breath, waiting for the right moment. Then the chance came, and he took it. Ah!
Eek!
Why do you do that? Wait there, I'll get help. Miss Olga Orley was out cold, struck by Mr. Smith. But his time was soon to come. Mr. Wright went upstairs to call the cops, leaving Mr. Shady Smith alone in the hideout with the unconscious dealer. Then our killer stepped out from the secret passageway and into the hideout.
The victim must have heard the cupboard sliding aside. He wheeled his chair around to look, and after the deed was done, the criminal must have seen the blood on the card. He would have, of course, realized the need to destroy the evidence. That single spot of blood told the whole story of the crime.
Too bad for him he didn't linger any longer in the hideout that night. If he had, he might have noticed the cards on the floor. And the fact that they We're all red! Ugh! Well, it seems this trial has taken yet another turn. I'm truly, truly sorry I had to see this day come, Mr. Gavin. Mr. Gavin! Mr. Payne!
Yeah! Yes, Your Honor!
The prosecution will continue its investigation. As for Mr. Felix Wright, the defendant, he is hereby cleared of all suspicion.
Quack!
Believe me when I say that I don't believe this is happening, Mr. Gavin. But I'm afraid circumstances call for me to issue a warrant for your arrest. Immediately.
Oh, no need to apologize. I rather enjoyed myself. It's not every day you get to witness a legendary attorney's dirty tactics firsthand.
Your point, Mr.
Gavin? Frankly, Your Honor, I'm shocked that a person of your caliber would be taken in by such a low-grade parlor trick. And Mr. Justice, shame on you for not realizing the truth either. I thought I trained you better, but apparently you were fooled by a snake oil salesman and his bottle of dirty snake oil.
Excuse me?
The defendant is cleared of all suspicion. This is hardly the time for jokes, Your Honor. Mr. Wright hasn't proven anyone's guilt or innocence here. What he has done is used illegal evidence to put the blame on someone else. And not just anyone else, but me, his own defense attorney, and his supposed friend, who, by the way, paid for his dinner that night. That's right, Wright orders 5 bowls of borscht and 3 bottles of grape juice. I get a side salad. And guess who's getting out? And guess who has to pay the full price? Me. Because Wright left his wallet at home. Of course, being the friend I was, I was happy. But yet it's due.
I don't know. Illegal evidence.
Let me ask you, Mr. Gavin, is there still any reason at present to suspect me of wrongdoings? Of course. This bottle, for instance.
The bottle of grape juice Mr. Wright was drinking?
How do you intend to explain away the fingerprints on the murder weapon? And not just any fingerprints. Am I right, Mr. Payne?
Actually, yes! The fingerprints in the bottle were, upside down!
I seem to recall this being an issue earlier.
The court in this case demand an explanation. I can think of only one reason why one would hold a bottle upside down. I should know. I did it just this way, and I am imagining doing it right now to Wright. And that is to hit someone with the bottom of the bottle. And trust me, I'm imagining it right now. I'm imagining doing it to you, Wright, over and over and over and over again. Well, Your Honor. See how the codfish squirms to the last well, Apollo?
Yes?
Your boss seems awfully concerned about this bottle still. But I'm sure you can come up with a suitable explanation. Just like that.
Yeah! Just like what? Why would anyone grab a bottle upside down other than to...
Don't let him trick you into thinking his explanation is the only legitimate one. That's because mine is the only legitimate one. I always like to imagine Kristoph being just the Frank Grimes of the Ace Attorney universe, where basically he's the one normal person who was thrown into this wacky universe.
Is there really another?
Take a look at the court record. I believe you'll find a simple answer there, in plain sight.
How about you just say the answer in plain words? It would be hasty to deliver first with unanswered questions, indeed. Well, Mr. Justice, Mr. Gant said that the court and this case demand an explanation. Don't worry, Justice won't leave until justice is done. Perhaps the defense would care to enlighten the court. What evidence do you have to explain why the fingerprints were upside down?
Okay. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I'm just trying to find basically that one. Basically, it's... Okay.
Now seems like the right time for a penalty! What do they expect? I have no idea how to explain it!
You're thinking too hard, Apollo. The answer's right in front of you. Just reach down and pick it up. Or try to picture situations in which one might grab an upside-down bottle.
Perhaps the defense would care to enlighten the court.
Okay, this is actually quite embarrassing. Okay, basically I know that Phoenix just put the... What the answer is that Phoenix put the cheat card in the bottle. Okay. 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 Wow, is this gonna be seriously like the first guilty that I'm gonna get in an actual first case? Say he failed. Oh, right. Right, that always happens. Okay. And I did it! Guilty verdict! And then Tsurugi, she's just cheering.
Yay! The world has been saved! Kristoph-sama walks free! Yay!
That's enough. I see no reason for further prolong this trial. The defendant's case is insufficient to overturn the prosecution's claims. The court finds the defendant Phoenix right.
And then Kristoph gets his own guilty. Celebrate good times. Come on. Oh, I will.
A regular trial at the higher court with this month's time. Where's the jury?
I have a month, Kristoph. And then Kristoph, we need to burn all the evidence, Mr. Justice. Okay. Yeah, just me going through this. Guilty, 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 guilty. Every time I get freaking guilty. Like I said, the Ace Attorney and me, we do not have the same logic half the time. I know the answers, but just getting to those answers, and you're not Phoenix getting a trial in a month, and Kristoph probably planning ways to dispose of the evidence. Yes, yes. Freaking thank you! This isn't the freaking photo! I swear, the logic sometimes.
It's easier to show you than explain, Your Honor. Place that ball on the floor next to your chair. Excuse me, on the floor? Yes, now reach out and pick it up without getting out of your chair.
Ah!
See? You naturally go to pick the ball up by its neck. With your fingers upside down. Look at this photograph taken on the right night of the murder. The defendant, Mr. Wright, sat here, playing piano. Bottles of grape juice on the floor to the side of his piano bench. You have naturally picked up the bottles upside down several times. Wow, I can't believe it was that simple.
Recall our dinner that evening, Kristoph. How could I forget, right? I was the one paying for it! I was drinking my usual juice then, too.
Basically, you used the bottle on the table to do the deed. Well, then you must have remembered. So you went and picked up one of the bottles from under the piano. And you switched the bottles. You took one of Mr. Wright's bottles and made it look like the murder weapon. Order, order, order! What do you have to say to these charges, Mr. Gavin?
Fascinating. So this is the legendary attorney's famed tactic of misdirection.
What?
You claim that I switched the bottle. Where is your proof?
But proof? Well, that's,
As I thought, more baseless conjecture. I'm afraid your bottle of proof is quite empty. Literally, just Kristoph comes in with these zingers. I can just imagine Kristoph during his own trials. He's probably magical. He just comes in with all of these one-liners. Literally, Kristoph, he practices. He practices them. This is what he does with his free time. Puts on a Shirley Temple movie while basically writing down some one-liners. I wouldn't be so sure about that. Your Honor, when you initiated the investigation of the hideout earlier, do you recall I requested an additional investigation?
Ah, yes. I have your memo about that here. Retrieve the bottles from under the piano at the Borschtball Club. And here's one of the bottles in question.
What? Are you going to dust that for fingerprints too? I would be surprised if any were on that but his.
Mr. Gavin probably wouldn't make such a novice mistake, true. That bottle won't bear a trace of anything!
Say, Apollo.
Yes?
Why don't you go ahead and examine that bottle?
But why?
Just humor me.
Mr. Wright?
That bottle will solve this case once and for all.
What? That's some bottle!
Okay.
There's nothing in the bottle! Well, what's this?
That card! It can't be! Recall that unpleasant woman's testimony for a moment.
Miss Olga Orley?
Yes, our little swindling devoshka. That night, I played the card like I was supposed to, and Wright lost the last hand, just like he was supposed to. Then Smith searched him, but the last planted card was gone. The trap failed.
Well, wait, isn't that... You're telling me that this is the played card you disposed of? The one you mentioned in this piece of testimony?
I happened to put my hand in my pocket and found a card. Yes, I snuck a peek at it and found it was the 5 of hearts. I had a feeling something might happen, so I disposed of that card before the game.
Disposed? Where?
There was an empty bottle of grape juice I had been drinking from beside me. I threw the card inside the bottle. The 5 of hearts. This is the card. The bottles were swapped, and the only one who could have done that was the 4th person in the club that night. You, Mr. Kristoph Gavin! And let me get Kristoph's breakdown where he's using telekinesis. He's lifting them with the force with his hate. He's a Sith Lord. That is all. Is this your idea of revenge, Phoenix Wright?
Revenge?
Revenge for the events that took away your attorney's badge 7 years ago. My past is like my logic, straight and true. But yes, Kristoph, it was! Nothing's changed. All I did was point the finger of justice in the proper direction. Fine. I'm glad we could have this little tete-a-tete, right? This is insane! What about me? Don't I get to prosecute anyone?
I believe this time we finally come to the end of our trial. Mr. Payne, do you have any report for us on Kristoph Gavin?
He's admitted everything. We're processing his arrest now.
I see. Still, one has to wonder why he would do such a thing. He didn't even have a connection to the victim, did he?
None that we know of.
Mr. Wright, have you anything to add?
I'm afraid I can't shed any more light on the matter.
About this victim, Mr. Shea Smith. His occupation was listed as traveler. An odd profession to be sure, and that's all we know about him.
I'll arrange a follow-up investigation, Your Honor.
Good. Mr. Wright?
Yes?
Yes? 7 years, and you still haven't lost your touch.
Kristoph Gavin was a man with much significance for me, both as a friend and as a lawyer.
He was extremely talented, to be sure.
I needed two things before I could confront him. The first was a place where no injustice would be tolerated. This courtroom, where injustice has been tolerated for years. The second was a man who would tolerate no injustice. A man who would be my pawn. In other words, a defense attorney, you, Apollo.
Me?
A dark time is coming for our legal system, a twisting of justice brought on by our very own court system. We have to set it right.
Mr. Wright!
Our work lies ahead of us, and I, for one, am looking forward to it.
Well, this seems like a good time to announce the verdict. This court finds the defendant, Mr. Phoenix Wright, not guilty.
Yes. Confetti!
Court is adjourned.
April 20th, 4:28 p.m., District Court, Defendant's Lobby, number 3. Thanks, Apollo. You came through, just like I thought you would.
I'm pretty sure I didn't do a single thing there. It was you who cornered Mr. Gav, the killer.
I couldn't have done it by myself. You sensed it too today, didn't you? Your ability.
Ability?
Yes, a sensitivity I lack. You'll come to understand it soon enough.
Wait, I wonder if he means... Oh god, not the hellscape again! I have one question for the witness then. You say that you saw the moment the defendant hit the victim. Is this true?
Of course it's true.
What's this weird vibe I'm getting? What? What? Wait. What was that, Mr. Wright?
You'll have to find the answer to that question yourself.
The answer? Right. Today was full of questions without answers. Most of them about Mr. Gavin.
What possible reason could he have had to commit a murder? Perhaps you'll learn that in the days to come.
Huh? Wait, you don't know, do you?
This locket is the key.
Huh? Oh, that reminds me. I met the girl whose picture is in your locket. Your daughter, right?
That's right, she's my daughter. You know, you were right about this locket.
Huh?
I took this off off his neck the night he died. But it looks like our dear Russian scammer saw me. So the truth is, this locket really did belong to him.
Wait! But that's perjury!
Welcome to Ace Attorney Apollo, where everyone lies on the stand. Everyone. Everyone lies on that stand, except Will Powers. Really, it's true. In the entirety of the series, everyone who has ever gone to the witness stand in an Ace Attorney game, with the exception of Will Powers, has committed perjury. Literally, Will Powers is the only honest person in the series ever. Is the only honest witness. You testified. You said that locket was yours. I said no such thing, actually.
Huh?
I merely said that it was a locket with my daughter's picture inside. A subtle distinction, but a distinction nonetheless. And it's the truth.
Wait, but then why? Why was the victim wearing a locket with a picture of your daughter inside it?
Sometimes the straightest path to the truth isn't the best one. Give it time. You're still just getting started with your career.
Speaking of which, I maybe have a job. I work for the Gavin law offices after all. I still can't believe I just saw Mr. Gavin get led away in handcuffs. And he was screaming at you. He was yelling about something about a convention that you dragged him to several years ago.
Oh, that was wonderful. Apollo?
Yes?
How about coming to work for me?
You mean at the Ryanco law offices?
I mean,
that's not a single attorney in my generation that doesn't know it.
I can't imagine that to be true, but...
Wait, but you're not a...
Oh, I turned in my badge. Yes, I'm not an attorney anymore.
That incident 7 years ago, that legendary trial. And at the middle of it all was one man, Phoenix Wright. The case reached its sad conclusion, and he left the law for good. Have you ever thought about coming back to the courts?
I'm not qualified to stand in a court of law, I'm afraid. Didn't you notice in today's trial? There was a single piece of forged evidence.
Forged evidence? Well, what are you talking about? I'm talking about evidence that shouldn't have existed. A naughty magician's trick. What besides stuck me as odd, true. It just seemed, well, too perfect. I'll bet this was the forged evidence. You mean this, don't you? I got it from your daughter, Mr. Wright.
Yes, that card couldn't have been found at the crime scene. Why? Because the killer took it with him when he left, leaving the wrong card in its place, luckily for us. The court can't accept this evidence! It's a fraud! A fraud? How can you be so sure? I would think that the only person who would claim it was a fraud would be the one who took the real card from the crime scene. The real killer. My verdict was already handed down 7 years ago.
Then, you screwed me over, you asshole!
Yes, I forged this card. And then Apollo is just like viewing.
You tried to ruin my career!
One look at the crime scene should have told you it wasn't real.
But you can't do something like that and call yourself an attorney!
Who's calling themselves an attorney, Apollo?
Me! And I used it! So it's true. The rumor is true! 7 years ago!
None of that matters much now, does it?
I punched him!
Yes, Apollo punching Phoenix! But joke's on Apollo. Phoenix is invincible. Hell, Apollo probably hurt his own hand on Phoenix. Phoenix just didn't even flinch. It's like punching Superman. It's your story from here on out, Apollo. Perhaps I can help you turn the next page. My office's address. Drop in if you'd like.
Mr. Wright!
Oh, about your uppercut. Try yelling, "Take that!" next time. I find it packs a little more punch. I can imagine just Kristoph doing that to me one time. Take that! Wow, Wright, you are correct. You are correct, right? And Apollo, thanks for today. I had a good time.
I hate you, Mr. Wright. And with that, Mr. Wright walked out the doors. And that's how my first trial ended. A lot of mysteries went unsolved, and at the time, I had no idea they were all related. Every mystery that day, connected by a single thread of logic, I'd find that out soon enough. My name is Apollo Justice, attorney at law, and this is how my story begins. By being getting screwed!
Brand new episode! Turnabout Corner! No, we're not saving. Not yet. Anyways! We'll get started on this case next time. Actually, yeah, we'll get started on this case next time. Anyways, I really appreciate you sticking to watch this episode. You're a great viewer. Come back for the next one. If you like, subscribe, comment, share, do whatever you want. And with that, I'll see you next time. Bye.